There was more fallout Tuesday from an investigation of the FBI's handling of the Clinton email case. Here's Paula Reid.
CBS News has learned that FBI agent Peter Strzok was escorted from the FBI as he awaits possible disciplinary action for his anti-Trump text messages.
Mr. Horowitz, does Peter Strzok like the president?
Today on Capitol Hill, Republicans hammered Justice Department Inspector General Michael Horowitz about those messages between Strzok and former FBI lawyer Lisa Page.
February and March of 2016, Peter Strzok said Trump's abysmal, Trump's an idiot, he's a bleeping idiot, Hillary should win 100 million to 0. Sounds to me like he hates the president.
His text messages would certainly leave that as the implication.
That is textbook bias. It is quite literally the definition of bias, allowing something other than the facts to determine your decision.
The Inspector General did not try to dissuade Republican lawmakers over their concerns.
I think, frankly, anybody should be concerned about any law enforcement officer expressing these kinds of views. I don't care whether it's a presidential race or a local election. It just shouldn't happen.
Strzok and Page worked on both the Clinton email probe and the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 campaign. They were then assigned to the special counsel's team, but were removed when the texts were discovered. Page has since left the FBI. Strzok's lawyer defended his client.
You can ask really any agent or prosecutor or national security official who worked with Pete during his 20-year career at the FBI, and they'll say he is among the best. He's very professional, very focused, works very hard.
Paula Reid joins me now from Washington. So, Paula, Tuesday's hearing opened with a focus on the zero-tolerance immigration policy. Representative Elijah Cummings condemned the policy. Let's listen to some of what he said.
And so I asked the question, and it is a simple question. Are we really going to sit here, 70 members of the Congress of the United States of America, in 2018, and have a hearing that just repeats the hearings the Senate had yesterday on Hillary Clinton's emails? We sent letter after letter, letter after letter, asking these committees to investigate the Trump administration's policy, which is now resulting in child internment camps. That's what I said, child internment camps. But we have gotten no response.
So, Paula, what prompted lawmakers to address the immigration issue at this forum?
Well, of course, there have been several days now of bipartisan outrage over the administration's zero-tolerance policy, which forces families to be separated when they are detained after crossing the border illegally. And in this hearing in particular, Democrats did not want to have another day of rehashing all the things that went wrong in the Hillary Clinton email server investigation. So here he used his platform to call attention to another issue that is not only good for Democrats, but also helps to undermine Republicans in what is, of course, a very important election year.
Well, turning back to the hearing, Inspector General Horowitz identified FBI agents Peter Strzok and Lisa Page as exposing political bias during the Clinton investigation. He then concluded there is no evidence that prosecutors were impacted by that bias. So what are the major consequences of Strzok and Page's actions?
That's right. I think a lot of people are trying to unpack that. They're like, well, wait a second, there was bias, but it didn't impact the outcome. What he's trying to say is there was no actual prosecutable case against Clinton. His investigation confirmed that, but he is deeply concerned about the appearance of political bias on behalf of 5 people who worked at the FBI, including Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, as expressed in some of these text messages. You read these text messages between Page and Strzok, and here in one instance, Strzok is at a Walmart in Southern Virginia, and he says, quote, "I can smell the Trump supporters." Another place, he calls the then candidate Trump an effing idiot. He is an effing idiot. And these raise concerns in the eyes of the Inspector General about possible political bias. So while he didn't find any criminal wrongdoing, he has referred Strzok and 4 others to the FBI for possible disciplinary action within the FBI.
Well, also Tuesday, Horowitz said the report did not find any evidence James Comey acted out of political bias. If this is the case, where does that criticism of Comey stem from?
Well, there's plenty of fodder to criticize the former FBI chief, specifically The Inspector General focused on two decisions. The first was Comey's decision to go ahead and hold a press conference explaining why he wasn't bringing charges against Secretary Clinton. Elaine, traditionally, when no charges are brought after an investigation, there's no announcement, there's no press release, there's no press conference. The investigation is just quietly closed. Now, here, Comey told the Inspector General that he felt he had an obligation to come out and explain his findings, but the Inspector General said, look, you did that deliberately without checking with your then boss, Attorney General Loretta Lynch, or the Deputy Attorney General, Sally Yates. You didn't check with them because you didn't want them to stop you because you knew you were going outside the traditional protocol. Now, the other investigative decision that was criticized was when those new emails were discovered on Anthony Weiner's laptop. They also criticized Comey for taking that announcement to Congress and informing them of this new development before they knew whether or not it was significant. Again, the Inspector General was concerned that Comey was acting out of a concern for the appearance of impartiality on behalf of the FBI and not following traditional norms and processes within the FBI. So those are the two areas of criticism for Comey, even if there was nothing that they believe was criminal. These are the reasons they believe that he acted improperly.
Well, the Inspector General talked about steps the Department of Justice can take to prevent similar issues of political bias from happening in the future. Can you talk about these next steps and why are they significant?
Absolutely. Well, he's jokingly said he wishes just no one in the FBI would ever text again. But certainly there are going to be new protocols about the appropriate use for electronic communication. If you're overseeing an investigation, just revisiting what is and is not proper, language to use about the subject of that investigation, and also just making sure that going forward, they will continue to follow protocols. And one of the big tests is going to be at the conclusion of the Mueller probe, whether or not they come out and have a press release or issue a report, and how they handle that, seeing all the criticism they got from being so public about the conclusion of the Clinton email investigation.
Well, President Trump reacted to the Inspector General's report. Let's go ahead and listen to some of that.
Let me tell you, we got some bad people that are doing bad things, but when you read that IG report about how she got away with what she got away with, it's a disgrace. They want to focus on immigration because they want to keep the cameras away from the hearings, because those hearings are not good for them. In fact, they're a disaster for them.
All right, Paula, do we have a sense of what the objective here for President Trump was?
Yes, I can tell you definitively the president is trying to undermine the Mueller investigation. He and his allies have been working to try to undermine the Mueller probe in hopes of sort of planting seeds of doubt about the eventual outcome. Now, we know there have been almost half a dozen guilty pleas. Over 20 people have been charged in this probe. So even though the president calls it a witch hunt, it has actually yielded many different indictments and plea agreements. So the president and his allies, they are trying to undermine the outcome. It's the best they can really do at this point, as the president has so far decided he will not fire Mueller. And here, these text messages between Lisa Page and Peter Strzok, this gives the president a lot of fodder to raise questions about the impartiality of the FBI and whether there was any political bias when the Russia investigation began, because both Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, they worked on the Clinton email probe, and then they were both assigned to the Russia investigation, and they were even added to the special counsel's team once that was formed. So the president takes these text messages and he says, look, I told you that there was political bias at the outset. There's no way this is a fair investigation, and I think this is not the last we are going to hear from the president about Peter Strzok. One thing that is interesting, though, is the president has not really honed in on the fact that it wasn't just Peter Strzok who has been accused of possible political bias. There are 4 other people at the FBI. And it is surprising to me that the president has not honed in on that yet in his criticisms, both in his speeches or on Twitter.
All right, Paula Reid in Washington for us. Paula, thank you.